Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kind of Funny Gamescast for Thursday, January 9th, 2025. That's a lie. Thursday, January 16th, 2025. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing, Adeoye Jr. Joining me is CEO Jr., Barrett Courtney.
What up, Bless?
And we got the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Hello, Bless. Hello, Barrett. Hello, gamers.
And a lot of people would say that this is the gamer panel right here.
People that actually play games, yeah.
People that actually boot up their fucking consoles and PCs.
Who actually know how to parry.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. No, not
even
parrying,
talk
how
to
to
me
parry
about
Poppies right here.
Don't even talk to me about the lack of parrying.
Don't leave me hanging.
Come on.
Don't leave me hanging. There we go.
Give me a puzzle to solve also. Oh, God. Mike just walked in for some reason.
For some reason.
We're talking about the gamers. Mike just fucking walked in the back with his laptop. Mike, what you doing back there?
He's watching you.
He's watching us. He's watching us. What a good guy. I remember this.
Gonna get horizontal.
Horizontal.
Drink a coffee, doze off.
Gonna lay down on the couch back there.
In 15 minutes, we're going to hear.
He's the goat, man.
I'm over here trying to talk about fucking Indiana Jones. JK, that's not on my top 10 list, because that's right. We're talking about top 10 lists today. Because remember, this is Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every weekday, we get together and talk about the biggest reviews, previews, and topics in video games live on YouTube, Twitch, and on podcast services around the globe.
Jesus Christ, that was an energy.
What we do, support us with the Kind of Funny membership. Sometimes you got to keep people on their toes.
Jeez.
On Patreon, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts to get all of our shows ad-free. Watch us record them live and get a daily exclusive show. My goal today is just to surprise Barrett, because I've done it twice in the last 5 minutes. And it's been
What else? Oh, yeah, you're talking about videos that you used to watch back in the day.
Yeah, what I said. I said, you know, 'cause sometimes you just let the internet take you.
Yep.
And you just go down the rabbit hole and it changes you.
Jesus Christ.
For a chance to be a part of the show, submit your thoughts and opinions as YouTube super chats as we go. Housekeeping for you. A lot of y'all made comments about loving the anniversary logo and the water bottle / notebook we got for the team. So the new anniversary merch collection is now up on kindoffunny.com/store. And remember, we're an 11-person business all about live talk shows. KFGD, before this, was us reacting to the Switch 2 reveal. Woo! With a full panel. It is me, it is Greg, it is Tim, it is Andy, it is Barrett on the ones and twos, talking about the Switch 2 for over an hour. So you're gonna want to check that out. Not really. Kevin in the back asked, "Are we excited for it?" You know, I'm gonna tell.
This wasn't the day of excitement. I feel like this was just the day of like, hey, here's the shit that's been leaking for the last month. April will be when we get.
April is when I get hyped.
Yeah,
because April is when they're gonna announce it. Barrett, it's coming to the Switch 2. That's right. Nintendogs. It's back.
Yeah!
It's back. You're going to take care of them dogs.
I can't believe I'm going to be able to play as Mike Minotti and Jeff Grubb.
Exactly.
I got the Nintendo dog in me, you know?
Whoa. And then after Gamescast is the stream. It is some games with Mike and Nick. I have it written down as Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Mike, are we still playing Donkey Kong today?
He said woo.
He said woo. He didn't give us a yes or no. He just said woo.
We're supposed to play it eventually. Mike's gonna start with some game for hopefully 10 minutes, and then we're gonna move on to it. Maybe we're gonna play for an hour. Maybe he's.
Mike
It's
said
gonna
Nick
end
got a
up
whole
being
thing.
Sinna to Nerdle or whatever. Probably.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun. Yeah.
If you're a Kind of Funny member, you can get today's Greg Way, and you can get Screencast later, which is going to be Creature Commandos. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Delaney Twining and Carl Jacobs. Today are brought to you by BetterHelp, ExpressVPN, and MeUndies, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, topic of the show.
Tots.
Our Game of the Year top 10s for 2024. Of course, if you missed it, on Monday, we revealed Kind of Funny's Game of the Year and Kind of Funny's top 10 games of the year using our lists combined. The games hosts here at Kind of Funny, of course, submitted our lists to Barrett. We then revealed from 10 to 1. If you missed it, go check it out. Spoilers. Helldivers 2 is our game of the year. Congratulations, Helldivers 2.
Wow.
Congratulations, Helldivers 2. That's a lie. But that was all of our combined lists. Throughout this week, we've wanted to go through and individually reveal our own lists to talk about our own top 10.
Yes, because last year for Game of the Year, we did it all in one chunk, and that was a 4-hour podcast. At the end of the day, we all looked at each other and said, why did we do that?
Yeah.
That was so long. That took so much out of us. And so for Game of the Year this year, we liked being able to share our personal top 10. So we decided to, now that we do Gamescast every day, that was a big factor for last year as well. We used to not do that, Bless.
We used to not do that. We used
Imagine
to
a world.
Gamescast.
And
We used to have a
so,
PlayStation podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we have Gamescast every day, we thought it would be fun to make it a whole Game of the Year week. Of course, you know, Shuhei Yoshida coming in, trying to ruin those plans. Nintendo coming in and trying to ruin those plans, but we're still getting it done, and we're still having a fun time. So yeah.
I love seeing Andy add his links, and the links aren't even links. They're just the titles of the games.
Wait, you can't click on that? You can click on it.
Oh no, you can click on it.
Yeah.
It's just more so I'm like your top 10's being spoiled for me because I was excited.
Yeah, we're like
well,
revealing it to each other.
It's for Kevin. 'Cause I
Oh,
want
okay.
Kevin
I didn't even
to
know
be
that there was a
able to-
run of show. Shit.
I want Kevin to
yeah.
put the links and stuff. You know?
So how are we doing this? Of course, we're gonna start off. We're gonna talk about each of our 10s, each of our 9s, each of our 8s, and we're gonna go like that. We're gonna go in a circle. But Barrett came to me yesterday and gave me the excellent idea of if I say a game that's my number 10 and somebody has it higher, we then wait to talk about it then.
Yeah, so as an example, let's say your number 10 is Astrobot, and Andy and I both have it on our top 10s higher. We won't say where Astrobot is on our list. We'll just say, that's awesome, Blessing. Let's wait to talk about it because we have it higher on our list.
Yeah.
And then whoever has Astrobot the highest, that's when we'll actually be like, okay, let's talk about Astrobot. I really like this format. I believe from Remap Radio, this is how they do talk about and share their personal game of the year list, and I think it's a fun format. So shout out to that crew over there.
Remap.
I'm sorry for stealing this formula, but I think it's fun.
Don't look at the run and show, Bless. Don't get. I don't want you to look at my stuff.
I'm not. So Andy, you
It's
caught
for
that.
Kevin's eyes only.
You caught
Yes,
that. So
yes.
yeah. So if I say a game that's my number 10, you have it. Either you guys have it higher. You step in. We need a good code word. What's a code word that we can say?
I think we can just say well, I have it
Mark
higher.
Echo's getting up.
Mark Echo's getting up. Okay, I like that.
I think it's just. That's cool. I have it high. Like, just like, I don't know. Like, why do we need a code
No,
word?
man, I like
We did
Mark
safe
Echo's
words?
getting
Jesus.
up.
Say,
Mark Echo's
say
getting
banana.
up.
Say banana.
I like Mark Echo's
Banana.
getting up.
Mark Echo's getting up.
All right. Do we want to do a straw poll to figure out who's
Do we want
think
to pull a straw? Which is still one of the best things to discover
God.
in 2024.
Straw
Pull? Isn't that when we pull straws? Like, no, Bless, it's straw pull.
P-O-L-L.
Kevin, think of a number between 1 and 10.
7.
God damn it.
Mike, think, not say.
Mike, think of a number between 1 and 10.
4.
All right, I'm going to say, God damn it. I'm going to say 4. Bear, what do you got?
3.
Andy?
9.
What's the number? Who's closest?
You.
What do you say?
Oh,
What
okay, I'm
number?
close.
What
So I'll
number
go
to
first
say?
and we'll just go down the line then.
Okay.
Oh, you said 5. Mike said 5 for the people listening and watching.
did say
Yeah, that's
5.
what I was thinking, Mike.
All right. My number 10 for my game of the year top 10 is 1000 times resist.
Mark Echo's getting up. That's Lovely Bless. I love that. But I have it higher on my list.
All right. Barrett, I pass it on to you. What is your number 10 game?
My number 10 game is Astrobot.
Mark Echo's getting
up. I like this.
It's a good save word. Good save
We're
word.
going
Great
up.
save
You know,
word.
we're getting up is what I meant. You know?
Mark Echo's getting up.
Uh-huh.
Andy, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is one of 2 DLCs. Destiny 2, The Final Shape.
Wow.
Wow.
Special experience for me.
Talk about it.
Mark Echo's going down.
Going down.
Going down.
Kevin's sneeze was outrageous over there. I have a trailer in the dock for you, Kevin, if you'd like to look at the trailer for Destiny 2, The Final Shape. Destiny 2, The Final Shape, fun-ass video game. I wish more people in the office wanted to share this experience with me. Played it with Snowbike Mike, and it's such a short experience that I would still run through it again because it's just so much multiplayer fun, and the narrative felt direct and focused, even though I was still confused because I hadn't been keeping up with much of Destiny 2 at all, right? But the whole final moments and kind of having this large culmination of all of these years, kind of feeling like this is where it's all about to go down. I just had a great time with it. Spoilers: Cade 6 is back.
Oh, shit.
Whoa.
Damn, I was at IGN when they killed him. That's
It's awesome
crazy.
having Nathan Fillion back in the roster.
Does he come back in like a satisfying way? Or is it one of those ones where it's like,
It's a different Cade 6 from a different universe.
yeah, it's like, y'all just dragged him back in the story.
You kind of, I think you get like sent to like the memories or like a purgatory heaven. Like here's what I mean, let me just, obviously you can already tell I barely understand a whole lot of what's happening anyway. But
You're just clicking
doesn't
heads.
matter
What
because
was the final shape?
the
Like a triangle?
gameplay. No, it's a dodecahedron.
Oh.
So the gameplay is just so incredibly fun. The it's my favorite type of like raid mechanic stuff where, I mean, not that we did the raid, but shoot that thing to lower it and then make I need you to be on these. Like the level of coordination was still very much there, and it got intense if you wanted to play on the harder difficulty so that you could get the better loot. I just had a freaking blast with this experience. And then the final moment to then, hey, you're no longer in a 3-player lobby anymore. You and 11 other players, or your trio and 4 other trios are now all on the screen right now taking. So it was me, Mike, I think maybe Chris Anka was there, and a bunch of just kind of funny best friends from the chat joining us on this final mission as we take down the Witness. The mission preceding that was a shitload of fun as well, but then that final moment was just awesome because this son of a bitch would grow gigantic and have like certain attacks that you all had to watch out for. It was a fucking blast, dude. This was like some of the most fun I've had in first-person mission shooting. I had a freaking blast with it. Everybody check out the final shape, unless they put out a DLC later on that makes it unplayable, because who knows how Bungie operates sometimes.
I'm so happy for you and all the Destiny freaks out there. Like I got the taste for it with Destiny 2 when it first launched, and like got to do that very first raid, and that was fun. And then I kind of I was like, all right,
same.
And like I'm gonna walk away. And you came back to it last year majorly, right?
Yeah, I hopped in with the DLC preceding the final shape, which was the one in that big,
what was it? It was
sort
like,
of cyberpunk. It was Lightfall.
Was it Lightfall?
I believe it was because it looked like Lightyear. It looked like Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah. It was like the cool looking one that almost looked like it took place in the future. So
And the thing is, that was still largely disappointing for a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Because of just the mission structure, and maybe the world may have looked cool, but it wasn't super satisfying to kind of get around that zone. But for me, who hadn't played Destiny in years, I had a lot of fun with it anyway. And then that kind of led me into being prepared for the final shape and just having a blast with it. By the end of it, I ended up having a gun that I had never experienced in Destiny, and that's not to say much because I have way less hours than anybody who cares about Destiny 2 in a major way. But I had a gun that healed my teammates when I would shoot them. So it felt
cool.
so much fun, and it made me feel like, oh man, I wish you had this from the start. I wish you had more things like this, where I'm shooting the enemies and then I see Mike's health bar going down and I start shooting him and his health bar, dude, it was just so active and fun. It's exactly kind of what I was hoping for in a shooter experience, but told in such a really cool way. And again, the art direction just out of this world. Any new area you'd walk into, some of the most stunning shit you'd ever seen on a really old engine that kind of got, beefed up maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but it's still by no means the latest tech ever, right? But it still looked absolutely unbelievable. It reminds me a lot of why we love From Software, where they're not ever going to be the bleeding edge of tech, but their art direction carries so much. Bungie's art direction is just fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I had a great time with it, and yeah, if anybody loves first-person shooters, I think, who gives a shit if you don't know anything about Destiny? Just hop in for that co-op experience because it is so much fun.
I love that. Before we get to number 9, I want to bring in some super chats. John Van Pelt writes in and says, my basketball and anniversary shirts are on the way.
Ooh.
Very exciting. Zaxxon Galaxian writes in and says, unrelated, but shout out to Kevin Ace, who I randomly teamed up with in Rivals last night. I blame the loss on Mike. # Mike sucks.
Nice. I saw Kevin get on. I think Kevin was playing with Chris Anka last night.
Nice.
I was playing that Hyperlight Breaker. Breaker.
And then Cody Bishop writes in and says, R.I.P. David Lynch.
Fuck, man. That was so sad to see in the
Dang.
chat. It was during the Nintendo Switch reveal. Yeah, he
shit.
passed at 79 years old or whatever. Fucking legend.
Yeah.
Great head of hair.
Great. Like, that is... You're gonna have his head of hair when we're 70 years old.
I mean, I hope if the finasteride keeps on working. If not, hair plugs. I'm going to Turkey.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you guys want to super chat in, right, I highly encourage super chatting in about the games we talk about if you have a piece that you want to say as well as we go. Number 9, my number 9 game is Pokemon TCG Pocket. Nobody's getting up
Let's
with
hear
Mark
about
Alco?
it.
All right, let's hear about it. Pokemon TCG Pocket is a game that I think, as a card game, as a competitive game, definitely has its flaws, but like those flaws didn't stop it from getting its hooks into me to the point where like in a year where there are plenty of games that I put in hundreds of hours into, like Pokemon TCG Pocket, possibly, I've not checked, I don't even know how to check, possibly has my highest playtime.
I think same, yeah.
Yeah, like I am logging into this game every day. I'm somebody that when it comes to games having dailies or weeklies or anything, like usually that's a surefire way to make me check out. But I am needing to open these packs. I am getting excited when I get a full art card. I think this was actually probably the gateway for me into getting into Magic, because understanding what a full art card is and like the types of rarities and even like just getting into the battle system and like deck building, right? Like
knowing the language,
knowing the language, like the way that has ushered me into Magic the Gathering obsession. I can't put it lightly, like how much Magic has a hold on me now. And I think a lot of that starts off with Pokemon TCG Pocket. As a basic card game, I think it does get the job done, right? I know I mentioned that it has its flaws, right? But like, I think for a game that is focused on, let's be an easy version of the Pokemon trading card game. Let's be a version that you can make a deck in honestly seconds. You can auto build and then look at whatever 10 item / trainer / support cards you want, and then 10 actual Pokemon cards that you want in your deck. It is so concise. It is so small, but I think that works so well to its benefit. A lot of it is based on luck, but I think I like that for this game, right? It is something that is all right, the battle system for me is an additional way to show off the cards that I've collected,
right? And
like leaning into, oh man, I can make my Celebi card play well with this other card to like, build up
just seeing the fun, like simple matchups, right? Like, yes, like the cards and the powers that they have in this game are not nearly as complicated as the actual like Pokemon card game can be, but there's still a lot of like fun, interesting things, and seeing other players build decks that aren't from like the pre-made ones and seeing like what everybody else can come up with is really fun. This was one that I did think about for a little bit, and it's definitely, but it for me it turned into like, this is my mindless fucking turn it on at the end of the day for like 10 minutes and not really think about it too much. I am sad that it didn't make the top 10, only because because it's like a phone screen, I had to get really creative with how to put it up on the back wall, and I was very proud with what I ended up doing for that, but alas.
Yeah, and this is also one of the rare mobile games that'll make it onto my top 10, right? Like, I'm somebody who, when it comes to mobile gaming, oftentimes, I just don't like having games on my phone. I don't like using my phones to play games. I want that to be separate. I don't know, like, I've just never been that person. But this is the one that has really bucked the trend for me. I am just playing this thing nonstop all the time, and so shout out Pokemon TCG Pocket. That is my number 9 game.
I finally canceled my subscription for that card pass thing. I finally did it.
Yeah, I did it after the first month was up or whatever. I was like, I got to do this now or I'm never going to.
Yeah.
Barrett, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is, let me triple check here. Thank goodness you're here.
Oh, love that.
Yeah, thank goodness you're here. We've talked about it a lot. I know Greg and Lucy James, shared so much love for this when they originally reviewed it. Yeah, it's that cartoony looking British game where it's kind of called a self-titled as a slapformer, right? You're going around this little town as this guy who's helping out this town in some way, shape, or form. You're supposed to talk with the mayor, and then you instead go out and cause havoc throughout the town and help people out in whatever way you can. But the only mechanic you really have is slapping things. And honestly, people have been talking about this game a lot, especially with the Game of the Year conversation. It's just something I can't understate is like how well it does humor. I think it's like one of the most consistently funny games. There's not a joke where I'm like, oh, that didn't land. Like every joke almost at least got like a good chuckle out of me, right? All of the bits that kind of like always wrap around in fun ways. My favorite bit is just going down the chimney of that one dude, because a lot of the times the way you're going through the town, you always have to go in a certain direction. So you're going down this guy's chimney like 5 times throughout the game to get to the next story beat, and you just mess up his living room every single time. It's like, oh goddamn, that's sad. And then there's just so many good bits, like the guy with the really big head, and like you going through the trauma of his life trauma of like what that has done to him throughout his life, but also like the fun like small town relationship stuff of like the teen with like the braces, and like her having a crush on like a dude who works at like a different like competing store or whatever. And it's all just like fun little, like it felt like comfort a little bit. It has that like kind of classic, maybe not to the same degree, but like Monty Python Flying Circus type of like style and vibe to it, but also just kind of being wholesome. And even though I'm not from this like a small town in the UK, like I do know of like what it's like to be a part of like a very small tight community, and so just like playing through that and just learning about all like the little relationships and funny bits, it's just like I love it so goddamn much. It's and there's just something about like it also, even though it's a slapformer, it also kind of feeling like a point and click adventure almost from like the 90s. I'm like, yeah, this is all I need.
This is one that I very badly tried to fit in my top 10, and like at the end of the day, right, like this is an honorable mention for me. Like I think this is probably in my 11, 12, 13 spot somewhere in there.
My bottom 3 all shifted around. Like there was one list where this wasn't on here, but then there were like 2 other lists where this was, and I was like, the more I thought about it, I was like, this can't not be on my list. God, the flower bit where you cut the flowers at the beginning.
And I think both me and you had this as our player's choice for the smileys as well. And like I think for me, this game is one that reminds me of in a really good way, even though it's going to sound maybe bad, but like it reminds me of playing Flash games growing up, like games on Newgrounds, where it is like, oh man, somebody has a very specific sense of humor and like a very specific thing they want to do, and they turned it into like this small, very charming thing. And this took me back to that. It takes me back to like early Adult Swim. It takes me back to like, I don't know, like there's a level of charm that it has that like I want to see every year when it comes to indie games, right? Like I love how funny it is. It reminds me of like playing Jazz Punk in like 2015 when it came out, right? Like I love games that are so willing to try and be funny. Something like Undertale as well. Like,
and it doesn't try to overcomplicate itself. It doesn't try to be anything other than just you're walking around slapping shit, you know? I feel like a lot of other indie devs could maybe get into their own head of like, is this enough? Like, are people like they found like, hey, here's the delivery method of giving you all of these jokes that we want to tell, and I think because of how simple it is, it works so well.
Blown away by the visual quality all across the board. It always looked like such a high production 2D animation. Like every sort of screenshot, anytime that your little dude was just changing his size for no real reason, loved all of that. When suddenly the scale is crazy and he's like as small as a mouse or, as large as just a normal human. I really, really enjoyed all of that. I think, for me, the game peaked with Peens, though.
Peens is really good.
Peens
is really good.
Peens.
The first thing, the game opens up, it's like, it's peas and beans. Peens. Like, it was that where, like, maybe not that it peaked there, but it set the expectation so high for the rest of it, which is why, like, oh, man, that joke was really, really good, though, and everything else was, like, almost close for me.
What was the one? What was the joke? It was like early on where I believe like you're mowing the lawn or something for somebody, and there's like a flower.
They're just like it's like a lovely day or whatever, and then you're just like slowly coming in from like way far in the background mowing this like
but isn't
public
it like
lawn.
2 flowers that like are trying to like? Are they starting a family? It's like a very like real thing is happening. Like some emotional beat is happening with like these flowers that you're about to cut down. And just you slowly in the background just mowing the lawn as like their narrative is like getting more and more like serious and passionate. And
the flowers are declaring,
I love you. Yeah. They're declaring their love for each other.
You stopping the burglar, the town burglar, I thought was also a great sort of, thread that kind of kept on developing.
God. If you haven't played, thank goodness you're here. Highly recommend it. It's like
2 to 3 hours. Yeah,
2 to 3
it's
hours.
like a sitting, maybe 2, and it like plays great on Steam Deck. That was the first game I actually like hooked up my Steam Deck to the TV and just like played it like using like a DualSense or whatever. And I was like, this is a fun time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, what's your number 9?
Number 9 for me is Prince of Persia: Lost Crown.
Ooh.
Wow.
Super impressive. Metroidvania. Talked at length about it all year, really, and it's the game that always kind of broke my heart that it took so long to get to Steam, because I feel like it would have been a lot more success. And I know the argument on the other side is just because you put it on Steam doesn't mean it's going to be successful, but if you leave something on there long enough to allow people a chance to get more and more hyped about it, because on its, I think on its surface, it can just look like a normal Metroidvania that maybe doesn't do anything remarkable, but I think that the game design behind all of the abilities you're getting, everything is just so smartly made in this game, and there are so many things you continue to unlock throughout the rest of the journey that can be used in your kit, or you could just kind of spam the same buttons, but at one point having an ability that you sort of swipe and you create a black hole that either absorbs an explosive object that you can use to explode walls, or you can also swipe that black hole to absorb an enemy that you can then swipe again that becomes your kind of fighter for you for a little bit. Or there was a random boss fight where a boss fight does all this cool shit and you're having to kind of predict the moves, but then it rains down all these gigantic projectiles. And it was that boss fight that I was like, how do I avoid? Oh my God, I can swipe to suck out that projectile from the air and then throw it at the enemy. It's just so damn smart in its design. I think that this is the one that I've said this many times, but this is the one that you show up and coming game designers. Here is something to kind of
aspire
be influenced by.
This
is like this is as high level as it gets for action combat Metroidvania. Again, the combat in this game is just so unbelievably fun and deep, and there are a lot of crazy gameplay videos out there of people just doing the most insane combat stuff in this video game because of how deep the combat can go. Just had a freaking blast with it. I'm so glad I ended up finishing it because a lot of those
finished it over the break, right?
Yeah, over the Christmas break. A lot of those challenge levels that remind me of Hollow Knight, The Path of Pain, where you're going through a lot of really tough sort of platforming stuff. You're having to dash super accurately. You're having to double jump and then use all of your abilities to get through these gauntlets of just spinning spikes and things like that. It gets so unbelievably cool and challenging, and a game that I can easily recommend to anybody. The shame what happened to the developer.
This is my biggest regret of 2024. I forget, was this in February?
Yes.
Around that.
Yeah.
I think January, actually.
January. So it was
because it
probably
was like we already have a GOTY contender. We have a contender.
I think this came out probably while I was reviewing Persona 3. And so I just didn't have the time for it. And then by the time I did get to Prince of Persia, I was just like, I was kind of burnt out on playing video games. And I remember playing the first 30 minutes. I was like, this is not speaking to me because it is very story heavy in the first 30 minutes. I was like, it's not firing off the things I want in my brain right now.
And it's not done particularly great either.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with anybody being kind of feeling like this is just a normal ass video game that can easily be overlooked. I think that is a very common thing to feel in that sort of opening moment.
But everybody talking about it for Game of the Year in conversations on podcasts lately, I'm like, fuck, I really want to play this game now. But let me tell you, I'm in the middle of the Uncharted trilogy, so
yeah. And that's my thing is I'm in the same boat as you, where
I sent through another video, by the way, Kevin, the assets.
Not that it's in my biggest regrets, but definitely in the biggest oh man, if I could create more bandwidth for myself last year to play a few extra games, this would have for sure probably been number one.
This is just one of those sort of gameplay clips to show how deep the combat can go. No, yeah, keep playing it from there. So freaking impressive. The level of, I guess, of depth that you can have with all of the abilities.
Whoa.
Shooting your arrows, directionally hitting enemies, rewinding back to the clone you put in midair, knocking dudes up into the sky, creating another clone, going back up to then kind of continue a combo. It's unbelievably cool, man.
For audio listeners, it's almost like a combination of Devil May Cry and Guacamelee, and that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
That was fucking rad.
Yeah, and I'm again to be in the same boat as Bear, right? This came out in the time period where I think I'd started. Again, maybe I can make different choices last year because I started playing Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, being like, oh man, for the 8th time, this is gonna be the one for me. And I played 11 hours of it, and then Persona 3 came out, and so I switched to playing Persona 3. But then Tekken 8 came out, so I switched to playing Tekken 8. And then by the time I finished all that, I came out in March, and it was all right, I guess I'm gonna. And then the next game was Tales Gonzera Zao, and because that was new. I was like, okay, well, I'll play this for review or whatever, right? And I'm glad I played it because that game was speaking to me, and as far as the kind of game it was, the culture, all that stuff. But I also thought that game was overall okay, and I'm like, man, I kind of wish that that maybe I spent the time playing this, actually playing Prince of Persia, because Prince of Persia, everything I've heard about it, everything I've seen about it, even seeing this clip, I'm like, goddamn, that seems like it would be my shit if I ever got around to it.
We should go back and just kind of look at past years where our gaming regrets in terms of time, because I just always think about because of release windows and because of what you're playing in certain time periods, I always think about putting about 25 to 30 hours into Scarlet Nexus And I really wish that game and Tales of Arise had swapped spots that year.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I really would have vibed with Tales of Arise, but something else kind of came out when that game came out. It's like, I had so much time in that period, and I put it all in the Scarlet Nexus. And it wasn't a bad game, but I wish I could redistribute that.
A backlog, what if?
Yeah,
What if? Jumping back into super chats real quick. CJ super chats in and says, Winter Wonderland's Between sweater arrived. Thank you, Andy.
Hell yeah, dog.
And
Wear
then-
that and be just, different season.
And then
Still
Jenny,
winter.
aka Send Nuggies, wrote in and says, watch the homie Vermudex get the achievement for actually meeting with the mayor without getting in any trouble. LOL. So good. I believe talking about thank goodness you're here.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a very Far Cry like thing where if you're just a good boy and wait.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Number 8. My number 8 is Persona 3 Reload.
Mark Echoes getting up.
Nice.
There's the second where I was like, fuck, what was the game again?
Mark Echoes, get down.
Never
get up.
forget it.
My number 8, and a lot of people are going to finally be vindicated here, second time for this week. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Wow.
That's
That's the
Uncharted.
Switch.
Yeah.
I'm making the
This
Switch 2
was-
now. It sounds.
Honestly, another big surprise for me for 2024. I think we did not know what the vibe of this game was going to be really going into it. For the longest time, Uncharted being kind of upheld as the Indiana Jones of video games. A lot of us, I think, assuming that this would be on the same level or same vibe as Uncharted. And then seeing Indiana Jones kind of being adapted into a video game and actually fit what Indiana Jones is, I really adored it. And I think the studio really did something special here. I've been equating it for the last couple of weeks to Star Wars Jedi, where I think they smartly looked at certain video game genres and picked out which ones felt the most genuine to what Indiana Jones is, and being kind of a very simplistic immersive sim, a very basic puzzle solver, a very basic kind of brawler, and mixing and melding those, I think it makes it genuinely Indiana Jones throughout the adventure. Granted, I know my biggest thing about it is kind of the first opening area. I think the pacing of the game and kind of what you're doing those first 5 hours is a weird choice. But once you get past that hump of the Vatican, this game really, to me, starts to sing, and you get a bit more of going back and forth between more of a smaller story section area and then getting to explore Egypt, right? Or, going up into the snowy mountains and stuff like that. And once you get to that, the end of the snowy mountain section, that game goes on a wild trip. From that point on, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
It reminded me how much I love the Indiana Jones movies, and so many moments reminded me of watching Last Crusade for the very first time. What the Great Circle is all about, story-wise and all that stuff. It was like, damn, I see the vision, and this honestly feels more like a complete, granted, Temple of Doom, from what I remember, was a prequel. It wasn't in between the first and third movie. This feels like the true, this is the story that's told in between the first and third stories here, and it fits so perfectly well, combining Indy's nerdy archaeology history, but also his understanding of different religions and all this stuff, and combining all those things, and you can't help but feel the excitement when he feels excited, discovering stuff when his crew helps him out. And then, the gameplay, I would say, is very basic. It is very much person's very first immersive sim, but I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. Yes, AI is a little bit dumb, but I think for general audiences who want to just play an Indiana Jones game, I think this is a cool opportunity to give them this game and be like, oh, you've never tried this type of game before, or you never tried to be more stealthy and focus on that, because if you go loud and all that stuff, it's going to be a rough time.
Let's put it in this wrapper of
that's
Indiana Jones adventure.
Yeah, and that's why I equate it to the Star Wars Jedi games. That is very much someone's first Souls game of like, if you never played this type of game before, but you just like IP, this is something cool and neat to introduce you to a different type of genre. Troy Baker kills it as Indy. And yeah, the last like 30 minutes, I fucking adore. And it reminds me of just like some of the most exciting moments that you would see at the end of an Indiana Jones story, which is like really what brought it up to my top 10 for me. But shout out to that final boss fight. I would say in contention with the Uncharted 4 final boss fight, as this is the most awkward final boss fight I've
why
ever.
Are we doing this?
Yeah, like
I
why
thought
are
that
we
way
doing
about
this?
like quite a few of the pretty much any boss fight in this game. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't.
There
need to
was
be doing
one.
this.
There was one where it's all about like being in the dark and shit.
Oh, even that one I wasn't fucking
Oh,
with.
I was into it just more from like the puzzle scenario, and this it felt genuinely like a Indiana Jones moment of like, all right, how the fuck does he have to figure out like what does he have to do to get through the scenario? Yeah, and just honestly, just finding any sort of weapon to beat up Nazis with. Fuck yeah, I'm into it.
I need I need one of them 5090s whenever they come out, because my 4090 would kind of maxed out, get me a little bit above 60 frames per second. But this game was awarded Digital Foundry's, I think, best looking game of 2024. So I really I want to experience this game, especially knowing that it is not a 30-hour experience, knowing that it is a bit on the shorter side.
Yeah.
And I just, I love kind of just seeing how tech can really kind of push a game and keep me interested, because I just love visuals.
Even on the Series S, which is just the only Xbox console I have at home, it was like, damn, this is looking good. Yeah. Not as good as I know it can look, but even on an S, I was like, damn.
Yeah. For me, it's one of those ones where it's like, this is the equivalent of being in an Indiana Jones theme park, of like how the levels are set up, where you are just walking around the Vatican. You're just doing side quests, you're sneaking around, and you're just doing things. And it's so, this comes back to the immersive sim element of it, but I think even more so just how deliberate the design is and how thoughtful it is as all right, what does Indiana Jones do? He's not Nathan Drake. Like, he's not out here shooting 300 people. He's not a Call of Duty character. Like, we know this is Machine Games.
He's
but, like,
just a guy.
He's just a dude that does shit. And like in this game, you're just a dude. You're just a dude that does shit, right? Like, you like find puzzles, you solve them, you get the relic, you do the thing, right? And like you get points for it for like the more knowledge-based activities.
And all the side stuff is so fascinating. Like there's a point later on in the game with the boat area where you're kind of like boating from place to place. There's a side quest that deals with like a former student of Indiana Jones, just everything that they could do to like kind of fill out this world and have fun with it and have it loop back to the themes of the main game. I was like, fuck yeah, this is rad as hell.
It missed out on my top 10, mainly for like, I think it's a great Indiana Jones game and I think it's a great video game. I don't see it as like a top 10 for me, but I like it. It's one of those things where I do appreciate the people that hold it up there, right? Because I do think that it is maybe one of the most bold games I've played of 2024, and like so bold that I came out on my preview last year, November-ish, maybe October-ish, came out on my preview and I was like, nuh-uh, like this thing is not working, I'm not feeling it, like had so many complaints, and then I'm playing the actual game and spending hours and hours into it, right? Like once you get it, and once it clicks, it does click, and you are like, oh shit, I see what you're doing here, right? And so shout out to Indiana Jones. Andy, what is your number 8?
My number 8, a little game called Astrobot.
Mark echoes getting up. We're going to talk about our number 7s, but before we do, I want to talk to you about patreon.com/kindafunny, youtube.com/kindafunnygames, as well as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where you can get the Kinda Funny membership, which allows you to get shows ad-free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode's brought to you by MeUndies. At some point in our illustrious love lives, we've all asked our partner the same age-old question that guys have probably been asking for thousands of years. Am I big? While MeUndies doesn't know the actual answer to that, or if your partner gave you the actual truth, this Valentine's Day, they can help you look huge with their contoured pouch and ball caddy. Choose from tons of awesome Valentine's Day prints and styles, and match undies with your special someone for an extra special holiday treat. From all black classics to fun, expressive prints, MeUndies has a look for everyone. Y'all know I love MeUndies. All my black t-shirts are MeUndies, including this one I'm wearing right now. Try MeUndies out, and if you're not happy with your first pair of undies, it's on MeUndies. This Valentine's Day, good things come in big packages at MeUndies. Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny for 20% off, plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. This episode's brought to you by ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not closing the door when you use the bathroom. Even if you think you have nothing to hide, why give random creeps a chance to invade your privacy? Internet service providers, including mobile network providers, know every single website you visit. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers, so your ISP can't see your browsing history. It hides your IP address, so it's even harder for third parties to track your online life. It's so easy to use. You just fire up the app and one click gets you protection, and it also works on phones, laptops, and more. I use ExpressVPN everywhere because it gives me so much peace of mind that I can explore the internet safely. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/kindafunny. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny, and you can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/kindafunny for an extra 4 months free. This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled in. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's part of your story you've been wanting to revise. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. Some of my best friends use BetterHelp and love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And it serves over 5 million people worldwide. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindafunny. BetterHelp.com/kindafunny.
And we're back with number 7. My number 7, Animal Well.
Hold on.
You got to bring up your list just to see.
One sec. Bless. It's mine too. My number 7.
Oh, shit.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's talk about it together. Yeah. Yo, Animal Well fucks.
Cool video game.
A very cool video game. Yeah, like that's one that I remember during like preview events, like Summer Game Fests and like Day of the Devs and stuff, right? Like hearing everybody else talk about it. I never got to do the hands-on at any of those preview events, but I would always hear other people be like, yo, like Animal Well, this shit is like fucking raw. And I'm like, is it like okay, cool, like I'll believe you, whatever. But for some reason, I just never got on that train. Like I was never like a lot I guess enlightened by Animal Well until we got to release, and I heard Roger talk about it, and I heard other people talk about it. I think I heard Andy as well talk about it, and the words that y'all used to describe it, even though Metroidvania is never like the strongest selling point for me, but like hearing you guys talk about the secrets and how cool it is and all this shit, the vibe, I'm like, you know what, man, let's do this. Like, let's hop into it. And damn, did this game deliver. I love exploring this world. I love the process of like uncovering secrets, and how I love the items you get that work as essentially abilities, like your Metroidvania abilities that unlock more of the map or more of the stuff you can do, right? And like the creativity that is in those items, right? Like the ways in which you can use them, so fucking good.
I guess in a lot of these preview events, I'd only ever seen Animal Well being played by people, and it always looked cool visually. But until I started playing it, I could not help but think, man, this game must have previewed like shit. Like if I don't know how I could have sat down in that limited amount of time and gotten it and really seen the scope and seen the vision of what Billy Basso was trying to do. But because every time I would see a demo, it was somebody running from that floating ghost cat dog or whatever, and running away from it, and they would die, and they would do it again, and they would die. And until you kind of understand what the game is doing, like unless you're kind of sitting alone with this thing with your Steam Deck on, and you're kind of just like no other distractions, it seemed like a game that would probably preview not great, or at least I probably wouldn't take much away from if I were previewing it. But once I finally kind of dove into it and started understanding what the game was asking of me, and started understanding the speaking its language, it it's really a mesmerizing experience. It kind of just took over, and it's all I could think about, and I kept thinking about all of those little things in the world that once I figured out, holy shit, those things are interactive. What the hell else am I missing in this world? And it really just kind of opens your eyes. This game is it's really, really miraculous that it exists,
really is.
and it exists in the state that it does. Where Roger's talking to, it's like 39 megabytes or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, because they made it in their like own engine and all this shit. Yeah.
The sound design, the visual quality of it all, I really, really enjoyed this experience, and I didn't have it as high as Roger because I know that one of the moments that Roger experienced, he really, really loved, and I loved it as well, and I felt like the other three major experiences didn't quite live up to that level.
Right.
So because I experienced that thing first, the rest of it was like, oh, it's done. Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Was kind of hoping that there was more kind of excitement behind that, but I was still blown away
A little
by
bit
its
of like the
concept.
freedom can fire back a little bit in terms of like how you want people to like ramp up maybe to like the bigger thing, which is always interesting. Yeah, this was originally my number 10, and then we talked about it on Game of the Year, but that Astrobot Christmas level kind of reminded me of like, oh fuck, I really love Astrobot, so it kicked this game off of my number 10 spot. I didn't fall in love with it as much as everybody else, but I do really enjoy it for like the vibes of just how cozy but also unsettling it is. As in terms of like a Metroidvania without combat, I thought it was solid. I think the abilities are like the most fun things in terms of what you can do with the items that you find. But besides that, like I wasn't blown away, but I also like wasn't upset. Like, oh, like it was originally part of my top 10 because it is still a very like fun time to go through and discover everything and run away from a creepy ghost dog. And like the way that all loops back, like there is like smart shit where I'm like, God damn, it's a great game.
Yeah, Influent in the YouTube chat says it's got some of the best light bulb moments I've experienced in gaming.
Yes.
100%. That it reminds
Totally
me
fair.
of, experiencing that with Cocoon and just going, oh my God dang, that is some smart shit. And mainly just feeling envious that like, man, I don't even know how you begin to think of how to make a puzzle like that. It's just so mesmerizing. How do you workshop this?
Where you play a game and you're like, fuck, I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
Like I would never be able to make this.
Yeah.
Barrett, what is your number 7?
My number 7 is The Rise of the Golden Idol. This was this. Nope, still Uncharted. And so, if you don't know the Golden Idol games, the first game called The Case of the Golden Idol, which came out 2 years ago, I believe. The best way to I don't know how to explain these games. It's like
point and click like puzzle
game where you're kind of put into a moment in time. It's literally just a moment happening, and you essentially have what is like a
crime scene.
Like a crime scene. Someone most likely has just died, and you're trying to figure out what just happened in this moment. And so you're clicking on items, you're clicking on like newspapers with words to collect words and names and all of this stuff. And you essentially have like, what is the like little book where you fill out like words and shit, like
a journal or
no, like
Mad Libs.
Ad Libs. It's like Ad Libs, but there's Mad Libs. It's like Mad Libs, but there is like a very specific like. You're not just putting in random words. You have to figure out who this person's name is. Why are they watching this man dance right now? What is the kind of thing that they're taking away from all this stuff? And the story circles around from both games, this golden idol, and all the people who are surrounding it know what the golden idol does and how it's affecting all of these people on a personal level, what it's doing to the outside world. If this was the first game that came out this year, I think the first game would be higher for me personally.
Case of the Golden Idol?
Case of the Golden Idol, yes.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
I loved Case of the Golden Idol. We played both games in a weekend. Alyssa and I like sat down, and she got really hooked into this game as well. It's so fun to like kind of have like your different like, oh, go click over here and maybe try to find like a word over here that we think is gonna loop back to this character who might have killed this other dude. I think the writing in or like the storytelling in the first game is a bit cleaner, and I think the guessing game of the kind of bigger conspiracy that you're putting together over the course of the game, I think is more fun in the first game. This one, it felt a bit, all right, we're gonna kind of tell this story out of order, and so it's hard for you to get a grasp on like who the characters you should be getting connected to and all this stuff, that I wasn't as much of a fan of. Yeah, it's like a weird, again, it's like Mad Libs, but kind of Carmen Sandiego, kind of, point and click, a 90s adventure.
I really like this one. Like, I played through Case, and then I started playing through Rise, and I beat Case and was obsessed with Case as I played through it. Yep. And then honestly, like, I didn't get to finish Rise. I might still go back to it, but I think by the time I got about halfway through Rise, got a little bit burnt out because I enjoyed Case better for like the story of Case and like the style and what it was doing. And then also the art style of Rise didn't hit for me as much as the art style.
It's a little gross.
It reminds me of like, because like everything's kind of more animated, and it reminds me of AI art in a weird way.
The way things move.
The way things move. I'm like, is this AI? Like, I can't tell.
I think it's like because
it's just puppet tool stuff, you know.
Yeah, like Case of the Golden Idol is supposed to reflect more of like the early PC point and click thing.
Yeah, like more.
Whereas this is like now we're getting to like late 90s, almost like PC point and click stuff, which I vibed with. It's definitely like gross and weird looking, but I was into it. And just like the story and like the meat and the sauce that they have, and just like the drama around like all of these people fucking each other over for this golden idol, and what the lengths that they're willing to go to get the job done, and like the twists and turns. Again, how the story is told in the second game, I wasn't as big of a fan of, but it all does come together at the end, bless. So I would encourage you to go back to it because I think it's a fun time.
One day I think I will, but yeah, like, and that's the thing is I love the puzzles so much in this game, right? Like you are playing the role of a detective essentially. You are looking at a scene and you are putting together like every single detail matters, and that's the thing that that's the best thing I can say about like how they approach the puzzle design is you are looking at like what's in the drawers. You can you can look at
what's in everybody's pockets.
And like everything tells a story of what just happened, and putting it together is such a satisfying experience.
Every scene you have to like find the names of the people that you saw from previous scenes, just so you can like have that reminder of like, oh, okay, this is the person from like 2 scenes ago, and like all this stuff. And the way they tell stories through the puzzles, I think, is really, really smart.
So we're up to number 6. My number 6, Balatro.
Mark Echo's getting up.
Barrett, what's yours?
Mine is Batman Arkham Shadow.
Oh.
My biggest surprise of the year. There's that big reaction trailer from me reacting to the first Batman Arkham game in a very long time, and it being a VR game. But again, that was more of my frustration with WB handling this franchise and universe. But Camouflage really fucking proved me wrong on this one, and they really proved the stuff, and they really proved that they understand the Arkham verse in terms of not just gameplay mechanics and how to translate that to VR, but just the Arkham universe and storytelling and those characters. And I think the story of Batman Arkham Shadow goes in directions that I do think get a little predictable once you get in like the first couple of hours of like, okay, I think this is the story that we're telling. But the way they write it, the emotional kind of script writing that they have throughout this game, it fucking hits. And bringing back Roger Craig Smith, bringing back Troy Baker, I think they kept the tradition of having a different voice actor for Gordon, because every Arkham game has a different voice actor for Gordon, which I find hilarious. And yeah, it all just works. And then, yeah, translating Detective Vision, translating the really fun combat that we know how good it feels on controller, and translating that to actually using your arms and fists is really cool and fun. And having this be a sequel to Arkham Origins, I thought it was really smart what they were able to play with in terms of characters, where some of these villains are at earlier on in their journey, and your relationship to how some of those villains come to fruition in being who we know them as, right? I thought it was really well done, and it reminded me of like, oh, goddamn, I want more out of this era of the Arkhamverse, the young Batman, the younger Bruce who's still learning, who still doesn't know, his biggest enemies out there quite yet. And yeah, they got me with this one. And there's a sequence in this that's like, they got to do it's VR. They got to do this type of Batman Arkham sequence in here, and they did, and they pulled it off. The last thing I'll say is, if WB is smart and makes another Batman Arkham flat screen game, as the VR players call it, I think they could look at this game in terms of storytelling structure and gameplay structure to maybe break out of the Arkham mold that we have seen in 4 mainline games, right?
Yeah, I heard they call all of us flatties.
Yeah, they call us flatties.
They call us
flat
flatties.
screeners.
Yeah, flat screeners.
But yeah, I can't say enough nice things about it. Like I said on the review, I compared it to a calzone. It is it's pizza, and if you like pizza, it's just pizza in a different form.
What if I get a calzone for lunch?
Cyborg TV says, if WB is smart and then it says, let me stop you right there, big man.
I know, they're fucking idiots, but, it's... Let me dream a little bit. So, yeah, that's my number 6.
Do we think that we'll see this ever get adapted to... I mean, I know it's like kind of meta...
yeah, they're a meta studio.
Yeah.
I don't think, though... I think this will always be a meta exclusive.
Damn.
The Camouflage is a studio owned by Meta, unfortunately.
I just think about the amount of VR games that will kind of somewhat get adapted to flat screen world,
Oh, like adapted for controllers?
Yeah.
No shot. I thought you were asking if like this will ever come to PSVR 2 or something.
Watching just the gameplay of Batman freaking like zip lining towards stuff, I was like, oh man, I feel the motion sickness, and I'm not even playing. It's
Honestly,
crazy.
like I get really motion sick in. That's another thing I want to shout out is the accessibility for the VR options as well. Of like the way you can bring in like the motion, where it's like it brings it where it kind of like it's like a black, or it's like a circle where you can see where you're going, but everything else is black when you're running around.
Okay.
And that helps me a lot, actually, like moving around or actually just sitting in this chair and not getting motion sick. And like, yeah, zip lining was a thing that I thought immediately, like, or gliding. I was like, oh, you're going to fucking throw up. But they do introduce enough here for people who are don't have their sea legs in VR that I think it works very well with. And yeah, the last thing I'll say is they looked a lot at Arkham Asylum, I feel like, in terms of structure, and played around with that structure a lot, that it's just like, goddamn. Yeah, the Arkham series.
Let me tell you about a ripoff. All right, I'm on DoorDash, and I'm on Thursday Calzone is where I'm ordering from.
Thursday Calzone.
And they have deals and benefits, right?
Oh, bless. Let's get ribs.
You can get 15. I'm not getting ribs for lunch.
Was that a weird thing?
Yes. Ribs for lunch is weird. Yeah.
Andy, ribs are weird for
He
lunch.
sounds disgusted right now.
Like, how am I supposed to get any work done after I just ate ribs?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You're not a
My
child.
face
You're
feels
not
all
gonna eat a
oily.
rib and then be like, oh, I fell asleep.
I'm gonna fall asleep after eating ribs.
You're
That's
going
the
to
only
fall
thing you
asleep
do.
after eating calzone. I guarantee it.
15% off up to $2. What the fuck are we talking about? And first of all, second of all, like,
30 cents off.
I'm going to take a guess that Thursday Calzone, Ghost Kitchen.
and then
Don't call your place Thursday Calzone on Thursday.
Tomorrow, if you looked it up tomorrow, it'll be Friday calzone.
15% off under $30 is what it's saying, right?
no, it says add $10 to apply. But, hold on.
So if you spend more than $20, the discount stops working, right? So it'll just be you get $2 off.
yeah, but that's bullshit though, because like the cheapest calzone here is $30.
On Monday,
What?
MLK Day
That's insane.
Calzone will be...
A 12.
That's insane.
Wait,
the
today
fuck
is
outta-
Thursday, isn't it? So I wonder if they're only open on Thursdays.
But also tomorrow, it'll be just called Friday calzone.
It is a virtual brand. Yeah, you're right.
Let's
Some
get
bullshit.
ribs, bless. You and me.
Don't get
I'm not gonna eat ribs.
$30 for a calzone?
Yeah, $30 for a calzone is fucking
It's
insane.
a
Get
12
off of
it's a
Thursday
12-inch
calzone.
all meat calzone. It's
That's
just
crazy.
I
That's
guarantee you
crazy.
it's not worth it.
sorry.
I can never look at you the same again if you order a $30
Slurp the meat
calzone.
through that bread.
12-inch all meat. Andy, what is your number 6?
Number 6 is Dragon Age Veilguard.
Ooh.
Woo!
about
So
it.
well animated.
So much fun. Such great combat. Really enjoy the combat system, and reminded me a lot of how much I love the Ghost of Tsushima combat system, where some people found it. It's one of those different strokes for different folks things where if some people say it gets repetitive, but I'm like, I'm enjoying this so much that I'm just going to take on any combat encounter that I could find because I'm having a lot of fun with it. And partnering up with certain characters that have certain abilities because certain enemies are weak to certain elements. And, maybe I know coming up we're going to be fighting a lot of certain enemies that are weak to fire. So maybe I should bring some fire squad mates with me. Or always having a squad mate on my side, the homie Balara. I love her so much. Her having an ability that sucks a bunch of enemies towards a vortex and then just going ham on all these enemies. It's just so destructive and fun, kicking dudes off of ledges. I'll never forget showing Greg the warrior class because he picked rogue, much like I was going to pick rogue. But I enjoyed warrior so much during the preview that I ended up going warrior for my full playthrough and freaking loved the shield gameplay of it. And showing Greg how the shield toss worked and how you upgrade that, he was like, "Oh, this feels real good." I was like, "Yeah, dog, I'm telling you, Warrior was just a freaking blast to play." but having a great cast of characters that I really grew to love, and I wish I had my mic recording for a lot of these gameplay moments that I was experiencing, because I was recording gameplay, but I didn't have my mic on, and there was just a whole lot of like holy shit moments where I'm audibly yelling and shocked at what some of the story developments that were happening when it comes to either NPC deaths or just wild twists and turns. I really enjoyed the experience, and I think it would have probably been like 10 or 9 on my list had the ending not been so goated. Like the final hour to maybe final hour and a half or 2 hours really kind of elevated and escalated the stakes, and just did a lot of awesome cinematic stuff that felt, I don't know, just really well realized. I was blown away by a lot of what was happening near the final moments. Awesome cutscenes, just big sort of like, if I were watching this movie in the theater, being like, oh my god, no way, that dude is a whole. Like, I loved it, had a great time with it. Could not recommend it more if you're into any sort of like fantasy RPG. Amazing character creator, loved it.
Nice.
I really loved that character creator, and that was the furthest I got into that game.
Fair.
I did play the first cutscene, and I was like, this looks like an E3 demo. Like, or the first sequence. Like, as I'm playing, I was like, this looks so fucking good.
Yeah.
My number 5, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
Ooh.
A game that is like, that's definitely like a personal pick. It's one that like I stand by as far as the quality of it, but I think even more so hits so strongly for me because it is a dream video game. This video game should not exist. Like, in no world should Dragon Ball Sparking Zero be the type of game that it is, and also be the level of quality that it is for being a 3D arena anime fighter that is harkening back to games that came out in the mid 2000s, right? Like, I forget when Tenkaichi 3 came out. It must have been like 07. Yeah, for Wii or something, right? For PS2 where I played it. But this is one that, like, again, if I'm to take myself back to when I was playing this as a kid, I was obsessed with Tenkaichi, right? It started off with Budokai, played all the Budokai games, played the Tenkaichi games, and the thing that I loved about those games the most is how much I felt like I am a character in the anime. I'm flying around the Cell Games arena. I am Goku, and I'm transforming into Super Saiyan 2, and I'm fucking punching Frieza in the face, right? Like, I am living out these dreams of being these characters that I watched on screen. And Dragon Ball Sparking Zero takes all of the things that made that game fun, which is essentially making 2 action figures beat each other up. Yeah. They took that, they applied such a ridiculous amount of style to it. This game is amazing to look at. It is one of the best looking games that I've seen as far as presentation and art style. It looks fantastic. It plays so fluid. It plays incredibly, right? Like, they kept a lot of the same like types of moves, special moves, abilities, all that stuff, and a lot of it still clicks and works in 2024, which is amazing, right? They saw all the things that people loved about these games back in the day, retained all of it, and uplifted it. Love the story mode, love the what if scenarios, and I loved how they packaged it all. The one thing, like, there was a time, like, in the midst of this game coming out and me putting in tens of hours into it, I think there was one panel where, as I was talking about it, there was a moment where I was like, ah, shit, this might be my game of the year, dude.
Yeah.
This might be the game
I remember
of the
that,
year. Yeah. And, like, at the end of the day, it lands at number 5 because the online is shit. Like, there was a early bug that has to be patched out by now, I imagine, where every match I would hop into, or not every, like a 50% chance of the matches I hop into, my control scheme would be fucked up because I played on like the classic controls, and that was a bug that I kept getting like online that ruined the experience quite a bit. But even more so than that, the game is just not balanced. In the years that I've been playing Tekken 8 and Street Fighter and other fighting games, right? Like, there's a level of expectation that I've come to have for online experience and balancing, and the balancing and like just the online experience is just so trash to the point where it's like I can't even give a bail, right? It's one thing for yesterday on KFCD, me, Tim, and Barrett were talking about Marvel Rivals and how like they're adding in all these characters, and like the conversation of balance came up, and Barrett and
fuck balance,
yeah,
just have fun.
Barrett and Tim are of the mind of like fuck balance, and to some extent, like I understand that. I'm kind of with you guys. For this game, it is so badly balanced where it's like don't have online. Like, don't let me match with random people online if this is the level of like unbalanced it is. Because I think like when I'm just playing against bots, if I'm just playing with my homie, like, you know, doing whatever, right? Like, the game shines. The game is fun. right? But you have that online mode, and so there's a level of competency you gotta have if you're gonna have that, and it's just really bad. But aside from that, right, like outside of that, game's fucking fun, like way more fun than it should.
It's gorgeous. I wish I was more into the combat. I can't wrap my brain around the combat. Yeah, it's more so like what was it? Dragon Ball Z. What was the 2D fighter?
Fighter Z.
Oh, Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yeah, that game kicked ass, and if there was a bit more, like I know that fighting game also had a bit more of a complex, like kind of traditional fighting game, 2D type of thing, but like if there was that level in input for this 3D, like oh man, I would have been all over it.
I'm hoping that there's maybe even mods out there that could make similar to when an older game comes out and they say, hey, here's a modern control scheme that you can download for this mod or whatever, or something good, because I struggled with that as well, like the just flying around and getting around. Even though when I rented these games as a kid, that's how I played it, but it just couldn't. It's like where some people stop gaming once they introduce the right stick, because some people's brains just could not handle. I have to control where I look as well. I can't do that. Never mind, I'm good with video games. I feel like my brain can't do that with the older control schemes that they offered.
And I was pitched on it as like, oh, it plays like Armor. You pitched it on me like Armor Core 6. I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. I was like, wait, there's still a bunch of like fucking what is it, combos that I need to know like off the top of my head. I was like, oh man.
If I were to look, I know every developer puts all their love and heart and soul into these video games, but if I were to have an award for like the most love put into a video game, it would be this tied with Astrobot in terms of like all the tiny details in Astrobot and all the tiny details put into this with all of this gigantic roster. And sure, some of them may just be color swaps and clones or whatever, but it's still wild that even that effort was put into the first place, where if you show me this roster, I'd say, oh, that's the roster after 2.5 or 3 years of development where you're constantly getting drops in DLC. Like, no, that's launch.
Like, to be clear, right? Like, I forget the number. It's probably like 180 or something around somewhere like that.
Insane.
And like, most of them aren't color swaps. Like, even there's a billion Gokus, but they all have their individual movesets. Like, they all have unique animations for their special moves, right? Like, there is a crazy amount of love put into it. And for people in chat coming at me for like the balancing thing of what do you expect, like obviously, like I didn't come into this game expecting Tekken 8 level of balancing. Don't get me wrong, like this is what I expected. It's still a flaw. Like it's still a thing that's there, and like that's still a thing that brings it down. Even if it's if I expect a game to be bad and it's bad, guess what? It's bad, right?
If you hop into a feature of the game that is less than favorable and kind of ruins the experience a little bit, you're like, and that stinks.
And to be clear, I think there is a level of unbalanced that I think this game could still work online. My problem is that it's so bad that I don't find the online fun, and that is where the problem lies here. It's not that it's not like a perfectly balanced.
You've been heard. You've been heard.
Thank you, Barrett. Thank you, Barrett.
And we appreciate your opinion. We're listening to you.
Barrett, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Balatro.
Mark Echo? Is it Mark Echo?
I think you had it lower, right?
I had it lower.
Yeah. I don't know what else is there to say about Balatro. Balatro is just, it became that comfort. I don't want to play a big story game on my TV. Let me now pull up my fucking phone and just have fun going through and trying all the different decks in this roguelike card game where you're kind of learning what actual like poker hands are and all this stuff. And just having fun with breaking the game. That's my favorite thing. Is just like, all right, here's these set rules. Now here are all these jokers that you can collect and try to figure out fun combinations with all of these jokers that will help you get the most insane scores. I've never gotten like the 1.10 E kind of shit where I'm completely breaking it because I'm stupid, but still, like being able to master some of these decks and have a lot of fun of combining suits or prioritizing certain types of cards, whether it's like 7s or 10s, and just having fun with it. Like it was easily, I think, probably over Pokemon TCG Pocket, my most played game this year, because I own it on like 3 different things, and it can't be understated that Alyssa does not play games except for 1 game a year. She'll always find, and this was her game. She saw me playing Balatro on my phone. She was like, "Hey, how can I play that?" And I was like, "Well, you would have to spend $10 to play it on your phone." She was like, "I don't want to do that." And I was like, "Well, they conveniently had sent us the physical copy on Switch," and I was like, "All right, I'm going to bring this home so you can play it on your Switch." And had a lovely time. There's so much you could say about it, but
that's my thing. Is like I mentioned, it was my number 6, and I don't need to wax poetic on it, right? We talked about it during Game of the Year, but it's the fact that the game is nearly like a perfect game, if not a perfect game, right? Like it's hard for me to find a flaw within Balatro. It's addicting. It's fun. I hope they make more. Like I hope they release more Jokers. I need to go back to it to see if there's any like fun updates.
Yeah, I think my only criticism of it is that I wish the themed decks of like the collaborations that they're doing with like Cyberpunk, I wish those weren't just cosmetic. I wish they added in different things for those decks, but I know there's already so much going on in the back end of how to make all of these cards work together that I get it, but when I was like, oh, let me like put replace this with Cyberpunk and whatever, and didn't really change anything. I was like, ah, man, I was hoping for more. But.
Andy, what is your number 5?
Never.
Oh, never.
Tim really fucked me on this one.
Never freeze.
That's it's crazy that he forgot about this game.
Really fucked me.
I
on
got
this
Tekken to number 10, so I'm happy.
Yeah,
Let's fucking go.
It's unbelievable. Neva is a very small game by Nomada Studio, and they made Gris, and Neva was their follow-up. Incredible art style, beautiful story, and it's a game that just super respects your time. It's a game that isn't going to try to outdo itself in a whole lot of moments when it comes to what the game mechanics are. It's all pretty simple, and you will occasionally get a new ability that, you know, might help for a future boss or whatever, but this is less of a game that you're hopping into to experience an incredible Metroidvania or to experience just side-scrolling precision jumping with incredible combat. It is way more of an experiential. All of that stuff is there as well, and it's very competent and it's good. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but the package that it's in, telling you this story about just like persistence and loss, and it's so gorgeous and beautiful and made me tear up multiple times. Soundtrack is absolutely incredible whenever these big moments crescendo and every feeling in your body is just like going haywire. It's like, holy shit, my synapses are just firing nonstop. It's so gorgeous, and it's maybe 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Could not recommend it more. Please play Neva so Studio Nomada can keep on making experiences like this. It's lovely, it's gorgeous, and more importantly, I think it's just one of those small, concise experiences that is not going to drag out it isn't going to just like make you level up and do all this gamified stuff. I just love how simple it is and bare bones, but it's incredible, and Tim really fucked me on that.
If this came out in 2019 before I got Lulu, I would easily play this, but show me a dog or like a wolf in a trailer, and it's a companion, I know where that shit's going.
It's just so
I'm not emotionally ready to do that. No.
I'll
So
never
incredible.
play it.
Fuck, dude.
Just kidding. I did boot it up. I played a little bit of it. I like it. It's cool. Number 4. My number 4 is Astrobot. Any marks? Any mark echoes? No? Okay, let's talk about Astrobot being my number 4.
It was number 8 on mine.
This is number 8, and then Bear, what was it for you?
10.
What a good game.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean,
like, what else are we
if
gonna say
you
about it?
listen to the Game of the Year episode, we talk about it a lot there. So I think you
Yeah.
can.
It was a kind of funny goatee.
Yeah.
Kind of funny goatee.
It's
It's a
lovely.
charming experience. Exactly my type of platformer, aside
Yeah.
from like, I like him a little bit like more open, but like, even
yeah.
still,
The,
like, I
zip,
fucking
the
love
zipper
this
is
game.
great.
Yeah.
Good zipper.
It's a
Zipper.
nice reminder of like, hey, a studio outside of Nintendo's core team can make a fucking fantastic 3D platformer, and this genre of game shouldn't just be left to Nintendo. Like, other people can do this because in such an age where not a lot of studios try to do the 3D platformer in a big way.
Yeah.
And I hope it brings in a renaissance, obviously from the Astrobot team, but hopefully from some other studios to be reminded of where we came from.
I also just don't. I don't love that everything is a bot. I don't love that
I'm with you,
everything has. I don't love that everything has a faceplate with blue eyes. Like, I just don't like it. Les.
This is the Gamescast I want to do with you,
Please.
and maybe Tim too, actually, because Tim's team doesn't love the Astrobot design. I want to pitch Astrobot 2 and talk about like the story and how do you approach the villain.
I want to
like,
see him in feudal Japan.
I want to I want to paint the world of Astrobot 2, right? And like pitch it. Cuz like give me what's the enemy of a robot?
Like a virus. I had I'll tell you what.
I like that.
Look,
Virus Man.
At one point, Andy Cortez watched the movie Con Air when he was like 10, and he had a character that he drew and created for a video game that he wanted to make when he was about 10 years old. I still have drawings of it. Character's name was Bleepo. Stupid little robot guy.
Bleepo.
Pretty much it was just a Mega Man ripoff.
Yeah.
But who was the enemy? Cyrus the Virus. That was the boss, and he had all of his virus underlings or whatever. But Cyrus the Virus was one of the characters in Con Air, the movie, so I just stole that name. But I just love the idea that like he's a digitized dude that is like coming to take you out. It's just like when I look at this game, it is so perfect in every way, and I just cannot stand these enemies.
You need a guy with a mustache. All right, I'm gonna be the one to say
don't.
You need a
You
guy with
really
a mustache to
don't.
be the villain.
We need a humanoid.
To be the villain.
He's gotta have like green
Fighting words.
We need
goo
Dr.
almost
Wiley.
coming out
We
of
need a
him.
Dr. Wiley. We need a Robotnik. You need like something.
We
When I
call him,
asked,
like Virus X.
for like the enemy of robots, a couple people in chat said Elon Musk, and I'm not saying because fuck Elon Musk. We don't need a verbatim Elon Musk, right? But like I could see like a inspired, just a sorry ass man with money who's like in the tech
super
world
divorced.
as the super divorced
Yeah.
as the villain of Astrobot. We need a
13 kids.
We need a dude. We need a dude with a mustache.
Yeah. But yeah, the game's really good.
Really good game.
Really
Yeah,
good
very
game.
good video game. Very
But I
good
just
video
don't.
game.
I don't like everything's got the Wally eyes.
Wow.
Digitized eyes.
I think it's
Fucking-
cute.
What was the robot? What was like the main boss, the main guy, green? I can see him.
The alien dude?
Alien. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
just a fucking
It
generic.
just
ass
sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, what did they say his name was? Like Vermitax?
alien.
Or-
Uber.
I don't know. It was something stupid.
It was like it was
Glib glib?
Nebulax.
Nebulax.
There's no
That's
way.
stupid.
They just stole that from Ratchet. I'm pretty sure. All right, Barrett. What's your number 4?
My number 4, Nine Souls.
Me too.
Yeah, that's how we got it on the fucking list. Let's go. That was my
go.
biggest surprise of like I did not fathom that making the top 10 for Kind of Funny.
Dog.
So happy.
One of the last two bosses. You talked about how the final boss was like the most
The final
satisfied
boss,
you had.
and, like that music and the amount of parrying that you have to do and like the move sets in that, so
It
satisfying.
was amazing. It was incredible. But the fight before that has you again because the sound effect and the satisfaction you get from
Boing.
from nailing a parry. It's just like a boom, like a little sound effect. And there's an enemy that teleports on both sides of you, Blessing, and shoots projectiles at you. And shoots them from both sides and keeps teleporting back and forth, and you have to go ding, ding, ding.
But it's also
That's
raising
sick.
you up,
Dude,
like you're using that for traversal as well. So like when they're up in the air, you can strike them. Nine Souls is
kicks
fucking
so
awesome,
much
man.
ass.
It's
Going
Shuhei Yoshida's game of the year.
Going to the one zone and these little the dudes with the big hammers, starting to fight.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I have my charge parries.
Yeah, now I can parry
gosh,
shit.
dude.
Yeah,
All of it was
the
just
Metroidvania design I think is really incredible in terms of mechanics that you're unlocking through it. Like I said on Game of the Year, the combat is just 2D Sekiro. It's the game that got me to play Sekiro. It's very, very satisfying, and how you're able to integrate defense with offense. It's fucking awesome, and a really incredible story, which I was not expecting. Yeah, you have to read a lot, but once you let yourself kind of give into what the story is about, like I said on Game of the Year, it is about leadership and them coming to terms with their responsibility of the people that they lead in terms of crisis. And this very much was one of 2 games that felt like a reaction to the pandemic.
Dude. But I mean, just any time you are dealing with these characters and their backstories and seeing a glimpse as to what you went through, because if you're not reading all of the lore throughout the game, these may just seem like random ass bosses, and of course they'll talk to you every once in a while and you go, oh, okay, you're bad because of X, Y, and Z. But then after beating them, seeing their backstory and go, man, that is just the most perfect Dark Souls tragic tragedy that you could experience. I love it. Loved it. This game rocks so much.
Yeah, this is in the Prince of Persia camp for me, where it's like, man, if I can go back and delete a game and then play a different game, like I don't know what game I'll delete to play Nine Souls, but I'd find it.
Compared to last year, where one of the videos I put out, one of the VOD titles I put was I think it was like, why play Silk Song? We have Blasphemous, or why wait for Silk Song? You have Blasphemous too. This is the Metroidvania this year. Like, this is the one that is going to really, really stun you if you care about story and awesome NPCs with great character development and just kick-ass combat.
Yep.
Number
Can't
3.
grind though. I'll
Can't
say
grind.
You can grind for money, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you're not really ever going out, killing a bunch of dudes, sitting back down, and suddenly you have more souls that you could level up with. The leveling up system was a little slower and tougher, but still damn good.
I think that's a fair criticism. Yeah.
We're down to our top 3. My number 3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Mark Echo's getting up.
Whoa.
Barrett, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Persona 3 Reload. It's a weird contradictory thing, right? With this being my third favorite game of the year, but it is Reload as a remake that has solidified Persona 3 as an entity as my second favorite game of all time. It's contradictory, I know, but like looking at
Wait, say that one more time.
So like Persona 3 Reload is my third favorite game from 2024. But what Reload does as a remake has solidified Persona 3 just as an entity without the remake, without like just as a whole, as my second favorite video game of all time.
Okay.
I was already in love with the original Persona 3 or Fez, what have you, and I kind of looked at Reload for my top 10 this year as what it does as a remake, and I think it's an amazing remake. I think what they were able to do with like the voice cast, like who they cast as these characters after so long, after being so beloved by this fandom, I think was very impressive. And kind of just seeing it get just the touch up it needed to be able to live longer in terms of conserving video games, I think was really important. And just adding little bits to combat that doesn't feel too easy like Persona 5 Royal, but adding those modern day elements that Persona 5 really introduced to make the flow of combat feel a bit smoother, to make the grind of playing throughout the entire game, going throughout 250 levels of Tartarus, feel way quicker. I would still say like the biggest thing against it is the structure of Tartarus, how many levels are going up and all that stuff, but it's hard to reimagine that without completely taking it away, because that is such a core of what the game is. And yeah, like replaying this when we did just also just kind of broke me in a way. We talked about it a little bit on the review, and like I don't think we did a spoiler cast, but a lot of this game is about death, and like I had played it before, so I knew a lot of the stories that we were going to get in terms of confidants, in terms of like the main theme of the game. And we were reviewing this in a time where a close friend of ours, or like a friend of ours from the Kind of Funny best friend community, we knew was about to pass soon, Nabashin, who we've known for a very long time, and it was hard to play through this game knowing what Nabashin was going through. There's a character in this game who's a confidant, or whatever you call him in Persona 3, that is terminally ill, and they do know like they are going to pass soon, and it just it was tough to get through this game again. But I think it came out for me when I needed it most. And yeah, a lot of this game is replaying it, even though as a remake, I think it's like a 9 out of 10, amazing. I think just seeing this story all come together again, especially when I replayed it, it is like really solidified. It's like one of my favorite and most important games for me. So
one of those games that I put on my hate and ass hater cap after that lovely, those lovely words from Barrett about our good friend Brian Nabashin, the homie.
Yeah.
I look at that game and I go, man, that visually that looks so much better than Metaphor.
Yeah.
Like I think it's an acquired taste. I think like when Metaphor gets nominated for Best Art Direction, I'm like, how sway? Like, like I think this looks so much
I love looking at
cooler
this
and
game.
more appealing. And I think it's not only just maybe it's just the setting. Or
was
their
Metaphor in Unreal? I forget.
I don't know.
I know Reload was. I forget if Metaphor actually made the jump to.
It just looks awesome. Everything we saw there was like, oh shit.
It looks very clean. It looks very like
cool.
it's
Slick.
Yeah, it's
Super
very
slick.
slick. Yeah, and
So
that's that's like the style. Like Persona 3 established the style of Persona, and like the way that they were able to kind of adapt that to modern day was very impressive.
Yeah, this was my number 8, and this was a game that like kind of helped define my 2024 as far as video games, where it came out in February, and I started playing it then. I probably played maybe 20, 30 hours before like I switched. I was Tekken and this were like my back and forth for like a good month or so. And then put it down, and then a few months later picked it up, and then put it down, and a few months later, like I was playing about 10 to 20 hours at a time of this game throughout the year.
This was the game that made you say no more 80-hour RPGs.
Yes. and while we're there, right?
Oh, man,
a new declaration for the new year, 2025.
Give me this one, Kevin.
Chat, don't ask me for shit. All right, stop texting me, or stop. You guys know my number. Stop DMing me and stop being in my replies talking about Bless. When are you gonna beat this RPG? When are you gonna beat that RPG?
Bro, just say it to me.
I
Just
don't
say it to my
have
face.
YouTube, Barrett. I don't have the time. All right, what you think it's easy to find 80 hours? Like, I don't have 80 hours laying around.
Yeah.
And so like between Persona, between Metaphor, between these long ass RPGs, goddamn, stop asking me for shit. All that said, wow.
It's
What
a
a
beautiful-
game.
it's a beautiful game.
What an ending.
Like-
When I tell you the ending put this thing on my top 10 so hard, like that game knows how to wrap
That's
up.
why I was trying to push you for that ending, because I knew that ending was gonna it was gonna hit you. I think in a lot of ways that it hits a lot of people. Like I said in my Persona video essay, like that game is so much about the fear of death, and being able to let go of the fear of death is choosing how you want to live with no and choosing to live with no regrets at the end of your life. It's why I have this Persona 3 tattoo. That means a lot to me. Like Burn My Dread as a theme for the entire game is just, it fucking hits in so many ways.
Yeah,
especially
probably my favorite song in a video game this year with Color Your Night.
Color Your Night.
Color
That's
Your
a
Night
fucking
is
bop.
such a
Bop of
bop.
2024.
And yeah, like again, talking about like playing it throughout the year, whenever I would pick this game back up, it would always just be the happenstance of it is the exact season that I'm in, right? Like when I'm playing this game in like March or April, it is March or April in the game. When I pick it up in the summer, guess what? I am playing through the summer sequence. It was crazy like playing this on getting to Christmas on Christmas Day as I'm playing this video game, and like it pretty much being the game that always persisted throughout the year. It was this and Tekken. And like, you know, you talk about the relationships you make in this game. I think there is like a large middle portion of this game that gets kind of slow and a little bit dry.
Yeah, you definitely feel the age a little bit.
Felt it definitely, but like you definitely still they'll have those moments where it's like damn. And like this was one where I feel like whenever I play a Persona game, there's always something that's like a damn, that hit me, right? And like for me, it's the same character that you're talking about as far as like there's a character who knows that they're dying. And I found that character very late, and I had like the moment of you can only hang out with that character on one day out of the week.
Yes.
And I did the math as I was like zeroing in on finishing the game, and the last week I could hang out with that character was like 1 week too short for me to actually finish that social link. So I like did the 9th one, and then knowing like, oh, this is my last time I'm gonna see this guy. Like, I'm not gonna get to
did you ever like look up on YouTube like how that ends?
No.
Oh my god.
But it was like such a heartbreaker of like, well, I'm not gonna
what
be
you're able
do
to
this
like
myself.
leave behind, even like the story he has of the highs, the ups and downs of knowing that you're going to die soon, and what you're able to, and grappling with what you leave behind after you die. Fucking
But like
Christ,
for me,
man.
I think that's the magic of video games, is that I got to the 9th one, and like the heartbreaker was that I'm like, damn, I'm not gonna get to finish with this guy, right? Like I'm not gonna get to finish the story, and I know like a lot of stories that he's not gonna get
a lot of
finish his
people like
story
have
either.
problem with the calendar system. I like it for that. I like that it's like, you know, you're just naturally playing, you're naturally hanging out with things, and you have moments like that might still hit for you, even though it's a mechanic that's preventing you from doing something.
Andy, what's your number 3? 3 question mark 3?
Yes.
Hades 2 early access.
Wow.
I feel like we
Early
should make a
access.
rule. Like I think we need to make a rule
No early access.
of DLC and early access, because like I'm of the mind with the same way that we, you know, when old Jeff Keighley, you know, hits us up and is like time for voting. Like I'm of the mind that if you tell me I can't do it, totally fine. But if I can, I'm not gonna not shout out some of my favorite gaming experiences.
I mean, we did have a conversation as a voting group of what we would allow. I personally am against early access, but I kind of had to take that loss there a little bit because I think more people were okay with early access, it being new content throughout the year. But yeah, if it was one of your favorite experiences of this year,
I mean, it was, but will I put it on next year's list as well to put it?
Might hurt it.
'Cause I'm not gonna not give it points and give it its shine. I want this game to climb up as high as possible on our list.
It's the weird thing where like I didn't include it because it's early access.
Same.
Right? Because like for me, if I'm talking about the best games of the, again, this is all personal, so it really doesn't matter. But like when I'm thinking of like the best games of the year, I'm not gonna put a game that like doesn't have like a finished ending above an Astrobot, or like a game that I feel like this is like a complete thing. Because I don't know, if it was a 1.0, then I wouldn't do that, right? Like if a game came out in that state in 1.0, I'm not going to be like, oh, and that's better than XYZ thing. But I digress. I think for a personal list, yeah, like fucking Hades 2 is fucking awesome.
Oh, I mean, it's number 3 on mine. I freaking love this video game, and I will continue to love it, and I just cannot stop playing it. I'm about 67 hours now in this video game.
That's crazy.
I can't stop playing it, and there are so many early access games that I always promise I'll eventually get back to when that new 1.0 or whenever that new gigantic content drop happens, and it's so rare for me to actually do that, but because this game is so easy to consume and doesn't require a whole lot of like, if I want to play this game, I kind of have to be in the right mental state. It doesn't really require that. It is as fun as any sort of arcade game could possibly be, and a game that requires such little of your mental state and such little amount of like your mood depends on whether you can enjoy Hades. A lot of games fall into those little niches for me. Hades 2 does not. I can enjoy it and experience it whenever and however I'm feeling. Whatever console I'm on, whether I'm on my PC or my Steam Deck, it's lovely, and I will continue to sing its praises, much like everybody has, because the game just kicks ass, and Supergiant destroyed it again.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is going to be an all-timer.
Good stuff.
But if all of us came together and said no more early access, then I'd be like, totally fine. I won't put it on my list.
All right. My number 2, Metaphor ReFantasio.
Mark Echo's getting up.
Barrett, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is 1,000 Times Resist. This was an indie game that I did not really know about until reviews came out. Shout out to a friend of the show, Natalie, who reviewed this and sung this game's praises. I think to a level that a lot of us in the kind of like podcast, video game podcast circles were like, oh shit, we got to pay attention to this game. But yeah, fucking really cool at the start, sci-fi, visual novel, quote unquote, where you live in a society of clones, and you're all cloned after this one girl who is seemingly the only survivor of a world-ending event. And you start off the game killing the girl that you're all cloned after, and from there you kind of go back in time to see what is the context of all of this, and where the story goes. I don't think you could ever, like starting it up, ever really imagine what's going on here. But the themes and the story go in so many different directions that I think is very impressive. I think the main one is how the game uses like kind of systems of power and people who are wanting to gain power through big traumatic societal like ending quote unquote events to gain power, and using that almost as a interesting foil and mirror to generational trauma and what it's like to be a mother and what it's like to oppose something that has come before you. I think it's a fantastic game. I think it is a must play. I think it's the story. I think it's going to be looked back at as like kind of like one of the more important stories in the 2020s told. This is the other game that I think is very much kind of an analysis, at least my personal top 10 of the pandemic and what kind of people in power like used to kind of gain from that. There's also commentary about the Hong Kong protests that's used to just talk about
familial strife, man.
Familial strife, but also just power dynamics, macro and micro, that I think is all told very well. And all of these different threads are told in such impressive ways that they can unravel all at the same time, and they all hit on like the same emotional level that it doesn't feel jarring. Like not just the story of the game, but how it's told, I think is like one of the most impressive things to come out of 2024.
This game, without any of its analogous themes, would be just one of the coolest sci-fi stories anyway. But because of all the stuff that you can like thematically relate to, I think is so awesome. And this was really close to making my top 10.
Fucked us.
It,
Fucked us on this.
It hit a near the end. I felt like I was playing about 7 different epilogues.
Yeah.
But as I'm playing these, you know, they're not even epilogues; they're just part of the game. But I always felt like the game was about to end, and then a new thing would start. I'd be like, "Ah, man, this game's still going," and then I'd be like,
But then
never
you'd get
mind, I don't
hooked in.
care because
Yeah.
it's really good,
Yeah.
and what they're still telling, the story that they're still telling is still incredible, and this new sort of thing that's been unwoven here. How am I? What is happening here now? Because I'm so interested in how they're telling it. If I was a billionaire, I'd give this developer more money to just make the game better looking and just but like that's just all personal preference because I think it's still so it's obviously a very small team who worked on this.
And
so
a
it's not the
team
most,
made up of people who have never made a game before.
it's not the most polished looking thing by any means. But one thing I wish they would have done a bit more with is because gameplay wise there's not a whole lot there, right?
Yeah, it's most for the most part a walking sim, and you're kind of exploring, putting clues together and solving very, very light story puzzles.
And because of the character you're playing, you have this technology that allows you to boom, you hit your left hand, you use your left hand to hit a thing and you go back in time or at a different place, or
you're in the same like area, but you go into like a different point in time in that same area.
And I wish that they used that a couple more times in the game, similar to like the Titanfall 2 level, whatever it's got. Like you have that moment near the beginning of the game where you see a door kind of blocked off. You're like, how do I get in there? Boom, change the time. Oh, it's open now. Oh, cool. That's opening up here. And I thought there was going to be more. I thought there were going to be more elements like that.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, like maybe the only moment that mechanic exists. You're still constantly going forward back in time, but you're not really ever playing with the environment around you. So I kind of wish there was a bit more there, but it's still just like I would love to see this get adapted into like something. Like it's just
that's
such
my thing is like
it's such a creative story.
I have it as it's my narrative of the year, right? Like my story of the year. Like that's what I had
That's
for
why it's
Smiley's.
my number 2.
And like I have it at my number 10 because the gameplay stuff for me doesn't hold up in it, right? Like it's
fair.
one of those things where it was a struggle. Like I had to push myself through this game. Like there are parts where you have to find things in like the hub area, but the hub area
is rough.
very big and interconnected in really weird ways, and like there's not a strong enough map to like.
Apparently, a map was updated into the game, or something.
And I even still, I think even after the map was updated, I think I still had more to play it. And so like, but like even still, right? Like I do think that there's so many gameplay things. I'm with Andy as far as the places that you can take it.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think the story stuff is so strong and so interesting and so very well told that it uplifts it so much.
And I hope other devs look at this studio and are inspired of what they can do to the storytelling in the video game medium and how it feels so much like we're still scratching the surface in that respect.
Yeah.
All right.
Really rocked. It was, I think it was like 12 or 13 on
God,
that
so
list.
close. So close.
Andy, what's your number 2?
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Let's talk about it. That was my number 3. I don't think it was on Barrett's list.
I thought about it for a while.
I just think it's my favorite combat system in a very long time. I love the strategy that goes along with it, to kind of interweave, fast twitch pairing if you want to play that way. I just love the strategy that goes behind it. But I was just blown away by the level of quality across a lot of different aspects, whether it's storytelling or the amount of love put into, even though I didn't vibe with a lot of the side activities, there's still just so much love poured into every kind of corner of this world. And I think by far this one felt like there was a much larger leap in character performance and character development. And maybe that's just, maybe just whatever they're telling in part 1, there wasn't a whole lot of space for things to develop. But I was just a lot more impressed by the performances that we got here. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed the experience. It was just a lot of fun, had some really wild surprises. And yeah, I just I don't, even the Kate Sith level that nobody liked.
God,
I didn't,
sucks so
I
bad.
never hated it, you know?
I hate
I
hate that.
I think once I realized, like, all right, enough of these like segues or whatever, and back when I was a stupid idiot fucking dude and was like, I've been ignoring Queen's Blood this whole time, and now you're gonna make me play on this boat. This is stupid as hell.
You could skip it, I think.
Huh?
You could skip it, I think.
Yeah. But I was just like, all right, I'm gonna have to learn this thing. Everybody loves it, and obviously you fall in love with Queen's Blood. I think the story just goes in a lot of different wild places that can be super confusing. And yes, I watched the Maximilian Dude video, and it certainly helped out my experience a lot more, but was still shocked with how much I was gleaning from the story as I was going along, as somebody who never experienced 7 to begin with, like who's only ever seen memes and who's only ever sort of been aware of Final Fantasy VII as a pop culture icon without ever knowing what the full story is. I was still kind of surprised that by the end of it, me and Mike are like, "Oh, okay, so is that what's real?" All of that stuff I really enjoyed. I know it can get obtuse and kind of frustrating for people who want. I know Barrett didn't love the ending. For me, it's still like kind of landed for me quite a bit because
It's not even that it's obtuse. It's just from like a storytelling, like emotional and plot standpoint, it feels like a coward's way out of how they decided to end that game. And that's all I'll say because I don't want to like spoil shit. But it felt like we can't choose between one or the other, so let's choose neither. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Oh no, I really
opinion.
loved it. And yeah, it was just one of those sort of. What an achievement, what an accomplishment to have this big of a game be turned around that quickly and still have such emotional resonance.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing for me is that like this game, it's almost the opposite of 1,000 Times Resist, where like 1,000 Times Resist is a team that made a game and they had the resources that they had and like told a story that was a banger. Whereas this game feels like it has like the most budget in AAA-ness,
Yeah.
AAA-ness just thrown at it, right? Of like, damn, these characters look amazing. Damn, these environments are big and beautiful. Damn, like there's so much voice acting, so much like so many set pieces,
So much everything.
And I think to have like that level of AAA, but also still retain a level of like magic and charm and character stuff that like really hits. This game felt like being in a theme park. This game felt like, you know, playing something that like Disney made. It felt bigger than life in so many of its moments. And like, like for a game to like have that level of prestige and that level of money around it, but still like be able to hit me and like, you know, have me feeling like, I don't know, the first time I felt watching, I don't know, what's a good Disney movie? Aladdin. The first time I felt watching Aladdin.
Hercules.
Hercules.
I never watched Hercules. Actually.
Aladdin's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
but
with Aladdin.
it
Lion
doesn't have
King?
to be real for this
Lion
story.
King, yeah, just like getting immersed in a world and story.
Like,
and
what's
just,
one of those ones where
I
it's like-
can show you the world.
Yeah, I think Aladdin is probably the good one. Yeah,
It's
fuck,
so
I love
good, man.
Aladdin.
You're thinking Hercules.
Brink.
Number 1,
Brink is a good one. actually.
Emperor's
Sorry,
New Groove.
really quick, just because people get upset whenever I talk about the ending of the game. I think, yes, it can be a thing can be a part of a trilogy and be building up, but it can still be bad within the context of just itself. And that's just my personal take. We don't have to agree. And it's fine. I can not like the ending, and you can really love the ending.
You can't let the chat get to you. You can't.
It
let
fucking annoys me every time.
I feel you. Listen, somebody earlier said I'm a bad gamer, and I want to fucking CJ
I mean,
Splitson.
the-
I hope you never come back. All right, fuck you, CJ Splitson. All right.
We love you, CJ.
Shit. And
Andy
also, I
loves
can
you.
love Rebirth and hate it at the same time. I had a lot of fun with that game, but still have a lot of complaints about
I'm watching you, CJ. Our number ones. Tekken 8 is my number 1. Again, I'm not gonna wax poetic because I already have. It got into our top 10. God bless. Let's fucking
it.
go.
Fucking crazy.
Another game that defines my 2024. Played it all throughout the year. Went to Evo. Made friends because of it. Right. Got real good at it too. Like, come fight me in Tekken 8. You know, played against Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston.
I hear from chat, though, that you're not a real gamer.
Fuck CJ Splitson. All right. Come fight me in Tekken 8. You fucking coward.
Love you, CJ.
Love you, CJ. No, actually, no. Andy loves you. Wait, a game that also just has so much good production to it, right? Looks incredible. Story's great. plays incredible, right? I feel like checks every box of what makes a good game, what makes a good fighting game in terms of like amount of content that's in it and how they uplift that content. What makes a good action game a good action game, right? Like mechanically, it's so sound. Yeah, shout out Tekken 8. That's my game of the year. Thank you. Barrett, Courtney, what about you?
My game of the year is Metaphor Fantasia. We talked about it already for kind of funniest game of the year. I'm happy that it made the list. There's not really much else to say. We talked about it so much. I just miss my boy Basilio. So that's really all I want to say. And I also want to it's proof, because there's a small group of people who are like, it's not fair that Barrett gets to vote and he counts the vote. What if he cheeses the vote? The fact that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was higher than Metaphor on our top 10 should be proof enough that I don't fuck with the vote. So anyways, Metaphor is a fantastic game. It truly feels like a grand adventure. It truly feels like this generation's Final Fantasy VII in terms of just exploring an entire world and getting lost in it and falling in love with every corner of it. The dungeon crawling is really fun and satisfying. The gameplay is on a level that I couldn't have imagined for a kind of Persona, and like the level of depth to tactics and all that stuff. The characters, story, all of that, truly wonderful. The art direction, truly fantastic. I understand that Persona 3 Reload looks cleaner, but I think 3 Reload, I feel like, is a little bit uninspired in terms of art direction compared to Metaphor. And track of the year, I'll say it, that battle theme.
It's one of those games that if all of the world came together and was like, this is the game of the year, I'd be like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I could tell from
Both
what I played.
IGN and GameSpot individually giving it their games of the year was like fucking crazy.
Could just tell that the level of quality was out of this world.
And like that's the thing is, I love that 2024 when we're talking about the two sides of game of the year, it is Metaphor Fantasio and Astrobot. We got it right in 2024, guys. We got it right. Pack it up. All right, Good year. And also my number 2, love it for all the reasons Barrett said.
Yep.
Andy, what's your number 1?
Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Woo!
Another rule broken. Another DLC. My second DLC on my list.
I think DLC is fine.
Second DLC and 3 if you count the early access.
It's a 50-hour DLC. It's fucking fine.
Man,
But
just
again,
put
it's
anything on his list. Where's Deadlock on there? A game that doesn't exist yet.
I mean, I have my OLIs. If you want my OLIs, my outside looking in.
Beep. Oh, instead of honorable mentions, you're outside looking in. I like that.
It's a Levitar thing.
Your ollies.
Levitar thing. Elden Ring. I mean, I don't know. Just it surpassed every sort of expectation I could have had for it. I still think that initial gameplay trailer is one of the most hype things ever.
Seeing all the new different combat types and shit.
And it really is not just the locations of the combat, but it's like those first lines read by Ansbach and him saying like Mikula the Kind, blah 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 blah. It's truly terrifying. I forget the exact words, but it's just like one of the coolest line deliveries you've ever heard in your life, and set the stage for a really wild adventure that I would have never expected, because so much of From Software video games are happening they're happening around you, and this one really felt like it was happening with you.
Yes.
You've experienced so many From Software games where you are uncovering history and uncovering these ruins of a past and an enemy. The boss you fight has been sitting there for billions of years.
They've already
whoever
gone
knows.
through their character arc.
They were great once, and now they are broken, or they were evil once, and now they're trying to become worse, or whatever the hell the case may be. But the idea that this game felt so kind of happening in real time with you, with these side characters, and having those side characters ultimately, once that curse is broken from Mikula, where everybody's like just in love and being chill, and that curse is broken, and suddenly all of these side characters are like, hey, I think they're trying to fuck me over. And having that all sort of come to a head in that one moment where
And sometimes play out differently depending on like what you do.
Dude, it's just so cool, man.
It is.
It was just awesome, kind of feeling like you were having this investigative moment in real time, which just never happens in these games. Yeah. And you'd come across these NPCs and be like, "Oh, dude, have you seen where so and so is at? We're hot on the heels of Mikula," and finding out what the story was, in terms of what are they doing with Radon's body? I mean, I used to work for him, and I'm not really fucking with him anymore. But like, they're doing some fucked up stuff to his dead body, and I need to find out what's going on. Just awesome characters, cool story that's happening, and again, great combat, adding all sorts of new weapons with new spells and jaw-dropping locations that you could only get to in the most unspeakable ways,
crazy
possible.
ways. Yeah,
Dude, like,
the swamp.
Dude, getting to like the Cerulean coast and just being like,
Yeah.
whoa, where the fuck did this come from?
Yep.
I don't know. It's why I play video games. It is the feeling of wonder and discovery and having this new adventure at every turn. I love this video game and this developer so much.
Yeah. It was probably my like 12 or 13. I want to thank it for getting me back into Elden Ring as a whole to prepare for the DLC and catching the Elden Ring bug that I platinumed it.
Holy shit, that's crazy.
It was crazy playing through this DLC and like knowing what the story of Elden Ring was, because I finally watched the Vati videos and being like, damn, that's crazy.
That's nice.
getting to the final boss and being like, damn, that's wild. I wouldn't have expected that.
That's really
kind of wild.
Yeah, the way they tell stories specifically in the DLC, I think is really fun, and I think really
it's so different.
It's so different. It steps up, I think, what Elden Ring was. I think also level design. I feel like they kind of looked back at more of the Souls level design, and were like, how do we implement that on an open world scale, and made the Shadow of the Erdtree area so much more interesting to explore, so much different around every single corner. When people kind of question of like, should this be considered? It's like, I think it's different enough from Elden Ring that it should be considered for what it does.
Incredible experience.
And there you have it. Those are Game of the Year top 10s individually.
I know we're going long.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to just quickly read off our personal top 10s?
Read them off, because I really got to go.
Yeah. My number 10 was Astrobot. Number 9, thank goodness you're here. Number 8, Indiana Jones. Number 7, Rise of the Golden Idol. 6, Batman Arkham Shadow. 5, Balatro. 4, Nine Souls. 3, Persona 3 Reload. 2, 1000 Times Resist. And number 1, Metaphor.
Number 10 was, you know what? I'm going to go Deadlock, Marvel Rivals, 1000 Times Resist, Giant Zogma 2, Witchfire. Those were my OLIs. And then my top 10 was Shadow of the Erdtree, number 10 is Final Shape. Number 9, Prince of Persia Lost Crown. Number 8, Astrobot. Number 7, Animal Well. Number 6, Dragon Age Veilguard. Number 5, Never. Number 4, Nine Souls. Number 3, Hades 2. Number 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And number 1, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree.
My honorable mentions are Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Thank Goodness You're Here, and I Am Your Beast. And then my top 10, starting at 10, is 1000 Times Resist, Pokemon TCG Pocket, Persona 3 Reload, Animal Well, Balatro, DBZ Sparking Zero, Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantasio, and my number 1 is Tekken 8.
Woo!
Where do you got to go, Bus?
I gotta go to the dentist, but then also I gotta do a meeting with Barrett and
If
Roger.
you want to leave, I could just read some super chats.
Oh,
from
go
people.
for it. Well, I guess I gotta beat with Barrett.
Well, yeah, we have a meeting that we have to do before he leaves, so that's why we're trying to both get out of here.
Okay, I mean, I could just read the super chats if you want. We got super chats. I saw somebody say like, "Oh man, no super chats."
Next stream.
Read those super chats. Let's leave Andy alone.
Read those super chats.
You good to end the show on your own?
Yeah, absolutely. Great show, Barrett. Great show, Blessing. Everybody, give him a round of applause. And I'm gonna read your super chats right now as I go to my supers. Here we go. Thank you everybody for supporting us here. And remember, don't forget that if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime. $20 super chat from Trevor. Says, I tried Persona 5 Royal when it got added to Game Pass and just couldn't do it and was never able to get into turn-based combat previously until Metaphor. Played the demo and got it for Christmas and I'm absolutely loving it. Trevor, I feel like if I was cloned, I would have that clone play Metaphor, and then I would connect our brains together so I could experience all of that. Because I could tell how truly goated that game is.
Would you feel bad that the clone's life ends to go back into yours?
Well, no, I think we would just be sharing a consciousness. I don't think I would be killing it.
I think you would.
Unless, yeah, maybe. S. Bubby Jubby, $5 super chat. Says, Tekken 8 is my goatee. Finally, a Tekken made for arcade first and looks great. The modes available that help you be a better player. It's pure magic. Thank you, S. Bubby. $5 super chat from you. We have $8 from Codfish, who says, more like Barrett Courtney. You get that one, Kevin? Cute.
Barrett came here to talk to me about something, so I couldn't hear him. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hawks with a $5 super chat says, I interviewed Remy Sue from Sunset Visitor about 1,000 times just on my podcast today. Nice. Story Motors podcast. And he thanked Barrett for hyping up the game. GG's. That rocks. Thank you, Mr. Hawks, for that. Another super chat from S. Bubby says, am I reading that right? Yeah, I just wanted to verify I was reading it right. Persona 3 Reload is number 2 on my 2024 list. Persona 3 has always been my favorite Persona game. Reload made me love it more and had me put it in my top 10 of all time. The game sounds pretty good. We also have we already read Jenny Sennuggy's super chat. And it looks like we're all caught up right there. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Gamescast. We'll be back tomorrow with a full slate of content. We have a stream coming up next. Probably not anymore, Mike, maybe?
No, we still do, I think.
We have a stream coming up next with Mike and Nick. They're doing something.
He's seeing me. He hears me. He's just not responding.
And then later on, we'll have the screencast talking about Creature Commandos. We'll be back tomorrow with more Games Daily, more Gamescast, more just all sorts of fun happening. Keep it locked here. Kind of funny games here on YouTube and Twitch. We'll see you later, gamers. Have a great rest of your day.